English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English. And I want you to imagine for a second that you are sitting in a high-stakes boardroom. You're an intermediate English learner. You've, worked incredibly hard to get a seat at this table, and the CEO has just finished verbally outlining a brand new strategy.
Oh, that is a tense environment.
Right. The room is completely quiet, and you want to express some concern, so you lean into the microphone and you just say, "It looks bad."
Oh, no.
Yeah, suddenly the temperature in the room just completely drops. Your colleagues are all staring at you. You didn't just disagree. You sounded incredibly abrasive, almost aggressive.
And the worst part is, as a learner, you probably have absolutely no idea why.
Exactly.
It's a terrifying scenario, but, it happens every single day. The intent was purely to offer constructive criticism, but the vocabulary choice completely derailed the professional dynamic.
And that is exactly what we are going to fix today in this deep dive. We are tackling three small but often entirely misunderstood words: looks, seems, and appears.
Such important words.
If you want to navigate everything from, a casual cafe chat to those high-pressure executive meetings, mastering the nuance between these three is essentially your secret weapon. Because right now, a lot of learners are treating their English vocabulary like this heavy 10-pound sledgehammer.
I love that analogy so much. You have this massive sledgehammer, and you're just trying to use it for absolutely everything.
Right. You're trying to hang a tiny, delicate picture frame on your living room wall, but instead of using a small, precise tool, you swing that massive sledgehammer.
Which is going to cause some damage.
Yeah, you might hit the nail, sure, but you completely destroy the drywall in the process. Using the phrase, "it looks good" or "it looks bad" for every single situation is that sledgehammer.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the habit we are breaking today because nuanced communication requires a much finer toolkit.
And we should definitely acknowledge why this happens in the first place. It's a classic psychological trap in language learning. Well, when you're translating your thoughts in real time, your brain is under this massive cognitive load. So it naturally just reaches for the safest, most familiar word it can find.
And looks is usually one of the very first descriptive verbs we learn.
Exactly. It works, maybe 80% of the time. So we just stop seeking alternatives. We plateau.
So let's break through that plateau today. I want to strip these concepts down to their absolute roots. We need to clearly distinguish between physical observation and deep emotional analysis.
Okay, let's start with looks then.
Right. Looks is strictly visual. It is based entirely on the physical evidence that your retina is capturing and just sending straight to your brain.
It's pure data. Like if you walk outside, tilt your head up, and see heavy, dark clouds completely blocking the sun, you say, the sky looks dark.
Because you literally see it.
Right. Or if a server places a beautifully decorated, multi-layered cake on your table, you say, the cake looks beautiful. You are purely reporting on the physical state of an object. There's zero guesswork involved.
Concrete and undeniable. But then, and this is where it gets tricky, we introduce the word seems, and the entire landscape just completely changes.
Completely.
Seems isn't about your retina anymore. It's an impression. It's an emotional feeling, or an interpretation based on someone's behavior, their tone of voice, their energy.
It's what your gut understands, even if your eyes can't physically see it.
Yes.
This is exactly where English requires you to separate facts from feelings. Seems involves, reading between the lines.
Yeah.
Let's put you, the listener, in a scenario.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine you're meeting a good friend at a cafe. They walk through the door, and their physical state is just a total mess. Unbrushed hair, wrinkled shirt, massive dark circles under their eyes.
Because you have obvious concrete visual proof, you use your visual word, you say you look tired.
Precisely. Because I am literally looking at the tiredness on their body.
Right. But now let's reset that exact same scenario. Same cafe, same friend. They walk in and they are dressed immaculately. Perfect hair, crisp clothes, bright eyes. Visually, they look fantastic. But as you sit together and drink your coffee, you notice they are unusually quiet. They're speaking super slowly. They keep staring blankly out the window, sighing a lot.
So your eyes see a healthy person, but your gut is picking up this heavy, exhausted behavioral energy.
Exactly. So you tell them, you seem tired.
That makes perfect sense. But I want to push back on this just a little bit, or maybe just explore the contradiction a bit more.
Sure, go for it.
What if I'm in that situation, and I can clearly see that my friend is forcing a smile? Like, visually, they're projecting happiness. but my internal radar is screaming that their energy is completely off.
Right, right.
How do I describe that without sounding contradictory or, confusing to a native speaker?
Well, the beauty of it is that you don't have to choose between the two. In fact, native speakers constantly use both words in the exact same sentence to highlight that very contradiction.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. You just say, he looks happy, but he seems different. Or she looks calm, but she seems anxious.
Oh, wow. That is such a powerful structure. She looks calm, but she seems anxious. By doing that, you're validating the physical effort they're making to smile.
Yep.
But you're also signaling that you have the emotional intelligence to read their true state.
It really shows an incredibly high level of fluency. You are demonstrating deep situational awareness to whoever you're talking to.
So if that's how we handle simple adjectives, how do we build slightly more complex deductions?
What do you mean?
Well, in daily life, we don't just say people are happy or sad.
Right.
We make guesses about entire situations.
Oh, I see. We accomplish that by adding the word like.
Right, okay.
We transition from looks to looks like and from seems to seems like. These phrases allow you to introduce a full sentence as your conclusion. But again, the source of your deduction dictates which phrase you choose.
Let's test this for the listener. If I walk over to a colleague's desk and I physically see that it is absolutely covered in messy papers, scattered sticky notes, and like 5 empty coffee cups, I say, it looks like you're busy.
Exactly, because the visual evidence is right there. You can touch the coffee cups.
Yes. Now, let's contrast that with abstract behavioral evidence. Say you want to deduce that your coworker didn't sleep well last night.
Okay, well, if they have bright red, bloodshot eyes, you have visual proof. So you say, it looks like you didn't sleep.
But what if their eyes are totally clear, yet they are, forgetting their passwords, typing incredibly slowly, and just staring at their screen without blinking?
That is purely behavior. So you must say, it seems like you didn't sleep.
Which brings us perfectly to the biggest hurdle, the exact mistake that caused that boardroom disaster you mentioned at the start of the deep dive.
Yes. The evaluation of abstract concepts. I hear so many learners evaluating abstract things using visual words.
It's the looks good trap.
Yeah.
It is incredibly common. And it's often because learners are translating directly from a native language that uses like a universal word for good, regardless of the sensory input.
Think about the reality of a professional meeting. A colleague just spent 20 minutes explaining a brand new marketing strategy.
Right.
They didn't show you a slide deck. They just talked through the idea. You want to express your approval. So the instinct is to pull out that sledgehammer and say, it looks good.
But an idea doesn't have a physical form. You aren't viewing a physical object. You are listening to an abstract concept.
Exactly. You cannot use a visual word for an invisible idea.
So you must evaluate the concept by saying, it seems like a good idea, or simply, that seems like a strong strategy.
It seems like a good idea. It instantly sounds so much more native. And I've actually noticed that native English speakers use seems almost like a diplomatic shield in the workplace. Is that by design?
Oh, absolutely.
Because English business culture feels very obsessed with indirectness.
It completely is by design. What you're picking up on there is a linguistic concept called negative politeness.
Negative politeness.
Yeah. English speakers, especially in professional environments, often go out of their way to avoid direct confrontation. The empathy, and really the uncertainty built right into the word seems, is incredibly useful here.
Because looks is definitive, but seems offers a cushion.
Exactly. Let's apply that cushion to giving personal feedback at work.
Right.
Let's say a coworker's having a rough day, and you just want to check in on them.
Right. If I walk up and say, you look upset, I'm pointing a laser directly at their face. I'm evaluating their physical appearance.
And that feels aggressive, right? Like you're criticizing how they're holding their facial muscles.
It can immediately make someone defensive. No one wants to be told their face is broadcasting distress while they're trying to, maintain a professional boundary.
But if you change that one word and you just say, you seem upset, the dynamic entirely shifts.
Because you are gently referencing their overall energy or behavior, it gives them space.
Yes. They can say, no, I'm fine, without feeling like you just insulted their physical appearance.
It really is the difference between the sledgehammer and a scalpel. Let's do another mental exercise for the listener to show just how fast these impressions can update in real time.
Okay, I love these.
Imagine it's your first day at a new company. You walk into your new boss's office to introduce yourself. He looks up from his computer and gives you this massive, warm smile.
Okay.
Based purely on that visual data, Your brain registers, he looks friendly.
A completely accurate visual assessment.
But then, 2 minutes later, without warning, that same boss aggressively drops a massive stack of immediate high-priority tasks onto your desk, points to his watch, and literally walks away without another word.
Wow. Okay, so your brain has to rapidly update its emotional data. You process that intense behavior and conclude, he seems very demanding.
Language in motion. Your visual assessment didn't change. I mean, he still has the same physical face. But your behavioral assessment updated instantly based on that new data.
So, taking this back to giving feedback on actual work, if I need to tell a coworker that their project plan has flaws, saying this plan looks wrong is a definitive statement. It's a direct attack.
Which will probably start an argument. But if you use your diplomatic shield and say, there seem to be a few issues with this plan, or it seems like we might be missing a step, you instantly soften the blow.
You're inviting them into a collaborative discussion rather than just issuing a final judgment.
It seems like we might be missing a step. That is such a fantastic phrase for young professionals to keep in their back pocket.
It really is.
But what happens when we leave the casual office environment?
Right.
If seems is our polite, slightly emotional shield for colleagues, we can't really use it when we're presenting formal data to the CEO, right? We need to elevate the tone.
We do. And that is when we introduce the advanced, highly formal twin of seems, and that word is appears.
Appears. I like that. Sounds like the word seems just put on a tuxedo.
That's a perfect way to think about it. Appears functions with the exact same behavioral and conceptual logic as seems. It implies a deduction based on evidence, rather than just direct visual fact.
But it changes the vibe.
Exactly. It strips away all the emotional intimacy. It creates an objective professional distance. You will see it heavily used in formal academic writing, legal documents, news reports, and boardroom presentations.
Let's compare the two directly. So the nuance is really obvious for the listener.
Sure.
Imagine you were at a casual lunch with your friends, gossiping a bit about a mutual acquaintance who just started a new business. You might naturally say, she seems really confident.
Right. But if you take that exact same sentiment and place it into a professional high-stakes context, let's say you're an HR executive formally evaluating a candidate for a director-level role.
You need to sound objective.
Exactly. You wouldn't talk about how she seems to you personally. You would write in your formal report, the candidate appears confident.
Let's put our listeners back into that boardroom scenario from the beginning of the deep dive. But this time, they have the right tools.
Okay.
You are asked to give your opinion on a formal 100-page financial report regarding a partner company's yearly profits. You've read the data. You aren't going to use your casual vocabulary and say, the company seems successful.
No, because it sounds a bit too much like a gut feeling.
Right.
To sound authoritative and advanced in front of those executives, you step up your vocabulary. You say, based on the data, the company appears to be growing, or the organization appears successful.
It instantly demonstrates that your conclusion is grounded in professional analysis, not just a casual vibe.
And we can actually see this play out beautifully in modern remote work culture, specifically during online meetings.
Oh, like on a Zoom call.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's say you're on a video call. A colleague turns their camera on. They're wearing a sharp suit, sitting in a home office with perfect lighting and a beautifully curated bookshelf behind them.
Okay, so you give them a visual compliment. You look incredibly professional.
Right. But as the meeting progresses, the agenda gets very complicated. And that incredibly well-dressed colleague suddenly goes silent. They refuse to participate, they avoid making eye contact with the webcam, and they dodge direct questions.
So the visual presentation absolutely does not match the behavioral reality of the situation.
Exactly. So if you're chatting with a work friend later, you might casually say, she seemed unsure today.
But if you were their manager writing a formal performance review,
You would elevate it. You would write, during the meeting, she appeared unprepared.
wow. So in a single scenario, you navigate through all three layers: the visual looks, the casual behavioral seems, and the formal behavioral appears.
That is the ultimate goal. When you stop relying on the sledgehammer and you start selecting the exact right tool for the moment, your fluency just skyrockets.
You aren't just communicating basic facts anymore. You are managing relationships and projecting true professionalism.
Because fluency isn't about memorizing a textbook list of grammar rules. It's about actively choosing your perspective in real time.
You constantly have to ask yourself, am I reporting on the physical evidence my eyes are seeing, the emotional instincts my gut is feeling, or the objective data my brain is analyzing.
I think it's time to put our listeners in the hot seat to test this out.
Yes, we are going to walk through a quick interactive quiz to test your comprehension. Think of this as a real-world simulation. We'll give you a scenario, and I want you to mentally lock in your answer.
Or say it out loud if you're alone.
Yeah, even better. Okay, scenario 1. You are walking to your car after work, and you see thick, black smoke billowing into the sky from a few streets over. What phrase do you use to describe the situation?
You use looks like. You say, it looks like something is burning.
Exactly. You choose this because you have direct, undeniable visual proof of the smoke entering your eyes.
Okay, scenario 2. You are sitting at your desk. A usually talkative coworker walks by. They're staring at the floor. They give you a very short, quiet answer when you say hello, and they quickly walk away. How do you describe their state?
You use seems. You say, he seems upset.
Right, because you're reading their behavioral cues, the quiet voice, the lack of eye contact, and making an emotional interpretation.
And finally, scenario 3. You are drafting a highly formal email to a major client. You need to inform them that, based on current supply chain data, their delivery will be delayed. How do you phrase this delicately but professionally?
You use appears. You write, it appears there will be a slight delay with the timeline.
Spot on. You choose appears because you are in a formal business context, synthesizing professional data, and you want to maintain polite, objective distance.
If you can intuitively navigate those 3 scenarios, you have mastered the core mechanics of these words.
Which brings us to a fascinating realization about how language actually impacts our perception of the world. Learning these rules doesn't just change how you speak, it changes how you observe people.
It forces you to pause and analyze where your judgments are even coming from.
Precisely. So we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. The next time you are people watching at a cafe or meeting a brand new colleague at the office, catch yourself in the moment of judgment.
Ask yourself this fundamental question. Am I describing what my eyes are seeing or what my gut is feeling?
By noticing that tiny, subtle difference in how you process the world, you actually begin to unlock a much deeper empathy for the people around you.
So true.
How might that change the quick, snap judgments you make every single day? Maybe that situation you thought needed a heavy sledgehammer actually requires the careful precision of a delicate watchmaker.
Take the time to notice the difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and keep learning.